Welcome back, my people. Welcome back. I know I was supposed to be live an hour ago, but I had a couple technical issues. But here I am. So hopefully the thumbnail showed up with Len Bias on it. I have a lot of Celtics fans because of the Larry Bird videos commenting about, well, man, imagine how great that 80 Celtics team would have been if or not that Len Bias tragedy where he tragically died from a cocaine overdose at a celebration party for being drafted. How ironic is that? So what I did was I said, let me look into Len Bias and pull up some highlights. And I'm going to start out this live by playing some Ben. I got Ben Simmons on my mind. Sorry. Some Len Bias highlights here.
This is Bias in the lane, double team. Got it! Len Bias with 35 points, and Maryland is back on top. Bias has it here, and that's what I mean. If he gets the ball, he's going to score. 16-10 remaining here in Raleigh. Here's Bias with a high looping jump shot, and throughout the day, he's got to be the best baseline shooter in the world. Not a good pass that time by Hamilton. Bias comes out for the steal. Nice move by Len Bias. Speedy jump. Now speeding inside. Bias turns, shoots, and hits again. Bias finally gets the ball low where he wants it, and that is his shot at the baseline. Bridge gets it low to Bias against Holiday. Works into the lane. Great effort by Len Bias, who wants the ball every time now and is begging, literally, his teammates to give it to him. Bias at the baseline. His shot. 3 minutes and 21 seconds to go. They go to Bias. Contact made. Fade away. Drops it in.
Big score people trying to go.
Now they get Bias. Double team to the baseline, but he makes it anyhow. Len Bias really on fire.
Duke saw Maryland was in a full court zone trap. They pushed the ball up really quickly and caught someone back alone. That's Len Bias, a good baseline move for Maryland.
Looking at to pick up the tempo. Bias baseline and got it.
You sure as heck better get the rebound.
Good ball movement, the alley-oop inside the Bias for the jam. Extra works, goes to the baseline, gets it right back. Long jump shot into that. Bias turning, cooking, and scoring.
Tough play by Len Bias. Great position.
Bill Kennedy fired up an air ball that time, and Bias comes out with it. Long to Bias down the lane, lost it, got it back, and hit the shot. Triple team. 10 minutes, 49 seconds to go. Bias from downtown.
Boy, that is pretty jump. Allery loses the basketball, tries to save it. Maryland's got it inside. It's Bias. It counts.
Leo picks up the dribble, lobs to Bias. He takes the offensive jumper and sticks it. Len Bias with a tough shot off the baseline. Long pass up court. Len Bias has 8 points for Maryland. Bias, nice jump shot off the baseline. Oh, he can shoot the jumper. Duke can't get anything to go. Lead patch. Adrian Branch, great feed back to Bias. That active offensively, a couple turnovers, and bang, here's that Virginia. Bias with an off-balance runner. He gets the bucket and the foul. What a play by Bias. Bias from outside, and he got it. Len Bias with 29. Oh, my! And he makes a steal and a jam. What a play by Bias. Holy cow.
This goes right and gets, now watch this, it's back over the head.
Well, it's showtime. Why not? Bias has 31 of Maryland's 65 points.
All right, guys. That's like 3 minutes of Len Bias college highlights at Maryland. Excuse the way that looked, because right there, that footage, because it's inverted, it made Len Bias look like he was left-handed, but he wasn't. Those were all right-handed jump shots. But as it got flipped on the screen for you guys, it made him look left-handed. But he was actually, I don't know if he was left-handed or not, but he made all his shots right-handed. So I have people commenting on the Larry Bird reverse discrimination video. And wow, they already caught that. We've detected copyrighted audio in your video stream. Jesus. I mean, this YouTube landscape is becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. They don't want you to use anything that has any music or anybody's copyrights, especially music. But anyway, I started to speak about the Larry Bird reverse discrimination videos, and many people that comment on those videos speak about Len Bias and what the 86 or 87 Celtics could have been with a rookie 6'8" forward, Len Bias, who averaged 23 points a game, I think, in his last year at Maryland, and was drafted by the Celtics. Yeah, he was something else. I mean, I wasn't too much into college basketball in those years. I was much more into the NBA than college. When I did get into college, UNLV Running Rebels became my team. That squad with Larry Johnson and Greg Anthony, Stacey Augmon. That was my college squad, UNLV. So I'm a Duke-hater. And since I was a Laker fan, those of you familiar with the channel know that Magic Johnson brought me to basketball. I'm a diehard Laker fan. So Duke and the Celtics is a no-go for me. But Christian Laettner played the same role that Larry Bird played for me for the Celtics by me being scared to death of Christian Laettner, especially down the stretch, man. It was just something about in college that he just was unstoppable at that point. And he struck fear in us. And the same way I spoke about Larry Bird striking fear in us Laker fans. And if you were a 76er fan or a Knicks fan, it was the same thing. A Piston fan, a Bulls fan, same thing. So now I want to speak about how I feel Len Bias might have impacted that Celtics squad, especially as they were starting to pile up injuries, particularly between Larry Bird and Kevin McHale. What role would Kevin McHale have gone back to the bench and been relegated to sixth man again? How would that have worked? Because now you got a monstrous front court of four. I think, I'm not sure how much longer Bill Walton played after that 86 championship season. Maybe he retired right after that. So I think Bill Walton would have been out of the picture. But you still would have had Parrish, McHale, and Bird having to share front court minutes with Len Bias. And Len Bias was too big to play the two. From them highlights that I saw, he looked like he was 6'8", somewhere around 235 pounds. He would have been a little too big to play the two. So I'm wondering, would they have overcame my Lakers in 87 to go back to back, or 88? That's a good question. It's a really good question. Because Len Bias looked like he was on the level of a James Worthy. James Worthy was 6'9", 230 pounds, 225 pounds. I think he played at in his prime. And James Worthy was big game. James was a beast. A lot of people don't speak about James Worthy in history, but a lot of those playoff games, James Worthy took over and dominated and won for my Laker franchise, despite Magic and Kareem being there. James Worthy's the guy that's not talked about enough. And he reminded me somewhat of James Worthy. Len Bias had that dangerous mid-range game. He was athletic, could do all the lobs and dunks. Obviously, he played some defense, which would have been key, especially what he could have done on the defensive end. And it would have been interesting. Would they have beaten my Lakers in 87 with Bias? Maybe. 88, maybe. Who knows? You know, it was a terrible tragedy, you know, but Boston, you know, they obviously kept it going for a little while until Bird's back gave completely out on him. So I want you guys in the comment section to tell me what you think about Len Bias, his overall impact on the team. You know, would they have challenged the all-time wins record if they had Bias on the squad the next year? Would they have went out and rattled off 70 wins? You know, it's a good question. You know, it's a hard what if question, you know. And the reason I'm doing the video and I showed the footage because it gets mentioned over and over and over and over again in the comment section. Oh, what if they had Len Bias? You know, Len Bias would have, you know, we would have had a super dynasty. Maybe the Celtics could have ran off another 3 chips with Len Bias. But if they had Len Bias, would they also would have acquired Reggie Lewis later on, or would they not? See, that would have changed some dominoes. You know, I feel like the Celtics had 2 tragedies. They had one with Len Bias in 86, and they had one in the 90s with Reggie Lewis. Because Reggie Lewis, let me tell you how I became familiar with him. I went to Job Corps in Massachusetts, right, in 1992. And, of course, we're in Massachusetts. All the local games are Celtics games. And I'm like, oh, I got to sit here. And this is when the Celtics were mediocre. They weren't that good. This is the Dino Raja days. All right, Kevin Gamble, stuff like guys like that. D. Brown. This was that era, the beginning of that era. And the Celtics weren't very good. But this was after Bird retired. Or he was starting to retire. Maybe he was still active, but he was always hurt. That last year, Bird was always on the bench. And Reggie Lewis was doing his thing, man. Reggie Lewis was unguardable. His mid-range shot was one of the best I've ever seen. His turnaround shot in the lane, his post-up, one of the best I've ever seen. If you came down and Reggie Lewis shot 10 mid-range jumpers, uncontested, right? Say you didn't even, he was, you know, was able to wide open, mid-range. Reggie Lewis, I felt, would have hit 10 out of 10. He was that good. He was that good of a shooter. Great free throw shooter. Good defender. Had all the intangibles, the size, the long arms. I think he was they measured him then at about 6'7". He was athletic. Not as athletic as Jordan, but just as good a shooter as Jordan, for sure. That would have been something to see. You know, so that's another crazy what-if scenarios. And you have a bunch of them in the NBA. One of my favorites is, what if Shaq didn't leave Orlando? What if Penny Hardaway never got hurt? How would that team have shaped out? Could that have been a dynasty? You know, what happened if Grant Hill didn't get hurt when he went to the Magic? We never got to see Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill together to see what that tandem, because they were saying that tandem was the next Jordan and Pippen. And they weren't far off in talent from Jordan and Pippen either. They were right on par, Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill, talent-wise, with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. You just have to have the right blend of players, the right coaching staff, and the right executives, obviously, to put the pieces together. You know, that's another crazy what-if scenario. You know, there's many of them out there. I will say this. Looking at analytics now, advanced math, and how that plays out and estimated wins and all of that, I feel like Len Bias would have added a possibly 10 to 15 wins to Boston's total. So at that time, if they were winning 55 games, I believe he would have pushed them to 65 games. You know, if they were at 60 games, I believe he would have pushed them to 70. I think he was at least good for 10 to 15 wins in the regular season. And I think he definitely would have been somebody who helped them get through the East year after year, instead of maybe the Pistons breaking through and going to the finals. Boston beats them and goes back to the finals again against my LA Lakers. Would he have been enough to topple my Laker team at that point? It's a very big possibility because Kareem was on his last legs. Kareem, you know, a lot of people don't realize the last championship my team won, Kareem was the 18th year. That championship, you know, they won in 88. Kareem was 18 years in at that point already. You know, so it's a very good possibility Len Bias tips the scale in Boston's favor, and maybe they're the ones that end up with 5 rings instead of 3. But that's the way the ball bounced, folks. So that's all I want to speak on Len Bias for right now. I still don't know too much about him other than watching a few highlight reels before I got on this live. But he looked definitely like the real deal. His tragedy reminds me a little bit of Hank Gathers from Loyola Marymount. I always had an issue saying that. The guy that played with Bo Kimball, I believe, who got drafted by the Clippers in the lottery. And both them boys were putting up like 30 points a game, and Loyola Marymount was averaging like 115, 120 points a game. And this was in college. This was unheard of at that time. They was running up and down the court, running through guys like Swiss cheese. And Hank Gathers was the more physical player, the more athletic player, and he passed out and ended up dying from a heart issue right on the court. And I believe Hank Gathers was projected to go number 1 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's been a few tragedies like this. It's unfortunate, but at least thanks to guys like you that keep Len Bias's name alive, continue to do so. You know, I know there's been a documentary made about him. I'll try to find that and watch it. So that's one of the things I wanted to speak about on the live. And let's transition into 80s, 90s basketball and the talent versus today. And the reason I bring that up is because the three-point shot has been emphasized so much that the mid-range game today is kind of a lost art. Watching all of those, I didn't show you all of the Len Bias highlights that I watched because I watched about 15, 20 minutes worth of different highlights from different people. Right now, I got to get a better setup when I go live so that I can show you footage better without my hand is shaking right now from all the damn iced tea I've been drinking all day. So it's got me wired. So it was hard for me to keep my hand steady. But yeah. Watching those Len Bias highlights, he mastered the mid-range jump shot and that turnaround in the post, as did all great players from that era. Dominique Wilkins, Bernard King, of course, Larry Legend, James Worthy, Adrian Dantley, the guy he got traded for, Mark Aguirre, Alex English from the Denver Nuggets. You know, all of these guys, Matt had the mid-range mastered. Mitch Richmond, you know, that part of the game is lost right now. You have guys with wide open mid-range shots and will be looking to pass the ball like this. Or they'll have the wide open mid-range and take 3 crab dribbles back leftward and take a step back 3. Now, if you James Harden, okay, cool. But most people are not. Most players are not James Harden that actually are proficient at that crab side dribble, step back 3-point shot, because that's not an easy shot. It's a very difficult, shot that you got to get the rhythm for. But the mid-range pull-up is supposed to be there. If you're a basketball player, that's like fundamentals that should be there. If you get a wide open 15-foot shot, that should be like a free throw. It used to be back in the day. My father used to always, not my father, my Uncle Guy used to always brag to me, back in the 70s, you couldn't even get on the court unless you was shooting 60, 70%. I said, what are you talking about? He said, if you was out on the only way that you got respect to be out on the court or be able to run with the big dogs out in the street games and the Ruckers and all those famous street ball parks in the 70s was your jump shot had to be water. Meaning if you were open, you better knock down 7 out of 10 or else you're not playing the next game. If they pass you the ball and you open and you don't make that shot, okay, he pass it to you again, you don't make that shot, it's going to be hard for you to get on the court the next game unless you was a hellacious defender or tall and blocking shots or something like that, because that was the name of the game back in the 70s. Everybody that was worth their salt as a player was a mid-range monster, because the three-point line is basically a late addition to basketball, and it's only been around for a short while as far as terms of basketball history. So that's what I'm noticing in today's game is not enough mid-range masters. It's either a 3 or a lob at the rim. And I know advanced analytics tell you that the best shot is either a 3-point shot or a shot at the rim where you can get 2 and maybe a foul. That's the most effective way to play basketball currently, according to basketball analytics. And this is why they deem the toughest shot on the court is the baseline mid-range shot. And if you notice, that's the shot that's available a lot today in the NBA. If you come off the pump fake of the 3 in the corner and you take a couple dribbles down and pull up from mid-range for 15 feet, usually there's nobody there because they are expecting you to drive full on for the dunk or throw up a floater, right, before you stop and pop with that mid-range. Magic Johnson also turned himself into a great mid-range shooter midway through his career, right? Gary Payton turned himself into a very good mid-range shooter halfway through his career. So there are guys like Lonzo Ball. I'm going to use him for an example. Great talent, straightened out his jump shot, can make all the threes now, but he's so quick, and now that his 3 is good, when he actually pumps off that 3 or comes off a screen, off of the 3, and comes into the mid-range, a lot of times this is where his game fails because he's not aggressive driving the ball to the hoop. And as soon as he comes off that pick off the 3-point line and gets into mid-range territory, he's looking to pass instead of taking that wide open 15 to 16 footer, especially by the elbows. This is a lost art. LeBron James is starting to take advantage of that shot now because he's smart. He knows that that's something that if he works on, it's going to be available to him now because the defenses are so spread out. So I just wanted to touch on that for a little while, the art of the mid-range shot, and more guys should practice it. If you have a young kid playing basketball and you're out there working with him, yeah, go around the horn with the 3-point shot, practice his free throws, but make mid-range shooting a part of the routine. particularly that mid-range shot off the baseline. Let's also see what I want to talk about here today. I'm going to tell you when I want to. Speaking of the three-point shot, I'm going to play a clip. Speaking about how effective the two-point shot can still be. Let's play this clip from Mark Jackson on Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp's podcast.
Goodbye and the spam calls. Hello to a phone plan with built-in spam blocking.
How would Jordan do in today's game? Because I've heard a lot of people, man, Jordan averaged 60. Jordan would average 70. Nah, man, I promise you, Jordan gonna get 45. In today's game, as they are, how would Jordan do, and how many points do you?
He's averaging 60 or 70.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, those days on
Game, huh?
not 50 a game. No, that's not going to happen. But I will say this: Michael Jordan would average whatever he want to average.
You believe he can get 40 a night?
Yeah, he can. I mean, yeah. If yeah, there's no question about it.
40 a night,
Yeah,
Mark. 40.
Yeah.
How you gonna get 40? If you go to
I'm not here to break it down and decipher it. I'm telling you as a witness, I'm testifying on behalf of Michael Jeffrey Jordan that he would average 40 a night. If we see guys averaging 30
right
and 35, with all due respect, that don't have the arsenal that he has offensively.
well, you know you have to add that three ball. You got to add the three ball to get to 40. Because you look at the guys, Harden was the last guy faced Harden with 36. And that step back three, he put that in. Obviously, the free throw, Jordan went to the free throw line a lot. He didn't go as much as Harden. But I don't know how you get to 40 without that three ball.
Well, Jordan's going to go to the free throw line more than he did back then because we were able to beat him up,
Right.
and it was ignored to
Right.
a certain extent.
Okay.
So, and he added the three ball in his career. We watched him against the Blazers knock down three. That wasn't his specialty,
Right.
but it wasn't like he was a liability shooting the basketball. Michael Jordan would average whatever he wanted to average.
Man.
I mean, you witnessed it.
Yeah, I saw it. I did. But I was just like, I'm like, man, when people say he averaged 40, 45, I'm like, 50. I'm like, man, do y'all know how many points that is on a nightly basis?
Do you know what somebody said, Tom Brady, when he's 44, going to get 5 touchdowns and have 9 through 2 games, and he's going to be on pace for 50 plus. You'd be like, man, ain't no way no 44-year-old guy doing that.
Yeah, you know what? Having played in the era,
That's a
when
good
they hit
example.
the quarterback everywhere except the bottom of his feet,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's a different game now.
It
And
is.
I can see what you're saying. You're like, it's totally different. They could beat you up.
Right.
The hits that we got back in the 90s, in the 2000s, early
Right.
2000s,
Right.
yeah, so they throwing somebody out of the league. They
Right.
hit Tom Brady like that.
So Brady's saying, I mean, he came out and said that the league is soft.
Right.
Well, with all due respect, he's right. So is the NBA.
Yeah.
So he's taking advantage of those rules.
Yes.
Jordan would take advantage of these rules.
I'm looking at this in game 2 of the final.
How many yards would you average if they can't
Yeah.
today?
I definitely be. I was Travis Kelce before Travis Kelce,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely getting me 100 a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna get me 1,500 yards a season. Absolutely, because we were running that. I was blocking for 1,500, 1,700, 2,000 yard rushers. So we were running the ball more than we were passing it.
Absolutely.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and become an official member of Club Nation.
So right there, Shannon Sharp tried to say, well, without the three-point shot, I don't know how Mike averages 40. And it took Mark Jackson, a living legend who actually had many battles against Michael Jordan and the Bulls, to explain to him that at one point, Jordan was averaging 37 points a game. I think that was somewhere around 80, 88, 89. He averaged 37 a game while taking less than I believe it was 1 3-point shot a game. So if he was doing that without even attempting threes, 37 was 40. Now, without all the bumping and grinding and hand checks and enforcer style power forwards that roamed around. So yeah, I could see where a lot of players from the 80s, like Bernard King, Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins, who's also an excellent mid-range shooter. He just wasn't a dunker. You don't average 27, 28 points a game by dunking the ball. Not even Shaq. As much, Shaq would have about 5-6 dunks a game. That only equals out to about 10 to 12 points. Shaq is averaging 28 because he had skill. He wasn't just dunking the ball. So a lot of those guys, especially guys I look at like Mark Aguirre, Bernard King, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, a lot of these guys would kill today, man. Absolutely kill, because they had that mid-range and all they had to do was be allowed to take a 3-point shot when they wanted to. Not that they didn't already have the skill. McHale already was making threes. It just wasn't a prevalent shot. Larry even is a lot of people think Larry Bird was shooting a bunch of threes all game. No, he wasn't. The 3-point shot to coaches was still taboo. They didn't want their guys going out shooting 7, 8, 9, 10 threes. The whole team would take 10 for the whole game, during that time. So that's also very interesting and something that I wanted to bring up, that came across. A lot of people thinking now that, just because guys can score now more because of the 3-point shot. And it's actually not the case. The mid-range game is such a lost art that a lot of guys don't even attempt wide open mid-range shots. They don't even attempt it. If you watch the game today, I'm going to tell you who would suffer today. Guys like Dennis Rodman. He would suffer in today's game because his lack of skill would really hurt him. He wouldn't be able to do what he did in the 80s that made him all defensive teams and defensive player of the year and all the stuff he was getting away with. Like that one sequence, right? I'll even play it for you better. I can show you better than I can tell you.
I didn't order a pizza. I know. But that Parker promo saved me so much in my insurance. I brought you a little something.
I don't know what the hell just happened there. Okay.
Harper reached in and fouled. Rodman off the bench. Let's see who he replaces. Longley has 2 fouls, and it's Luke who'll go out. Here is Pippen. Out to Harper. Open 3. Missed it. Malone battling Rodman, and it's tipped to Stockton.
You watch Malone and Rodman battling under the boards. Malone's going all out as he runs the floor. They both kick each other a little bit.
Malone on that left block, this time against Rodman. Takes him into the lane. Tries to muscle up, but loses it. Pippen back.
Malone in the low post. They're not double teaming him. They're letting Rodman play him one-on-one. Consequently, when he goes up to put up the shot.
Bulls with the ball. Down by 7. Scott Burrell is on Russell. Rodman on Malone. And Rodman's going to be hit with a foul, I think. It is on Dennis, his first. It's Malone. And it's Utah with the lead. Jordan. Rodman on the offensive glass. Wennington a good look. Moving down toward a minute to play in the first. Chicago by 1. And a whistle from Dick Favetta. Watch the byplay here between Malone and Rodman. A sign of respect, actually, it appeared to me.
You're it.
Malone in traffic. Got his own and put it back in.
That's that first offensive rebound that you talked about. Malone get it and got 2 points. Working once again in the post. He backs himself down strong. Misses it, but it's a great effort and a great hands to get the ball back in the finish.
Malone slips it through a crowd to Anderson, who misses the floater. Rodman juggles the rebound, but saves it in.
I'm noticing, Doug, every time Malone gets it on the low post now, they're coming to double team, trying to keep Rodman out of foul trouble.
Hornacek returns it to Malone. Now has it back in a crowd and misses. Anderson flies in, can't hit the tip. Malone another try, and there it is for Utah.
You see, Rodman didn't even try to contest that shot underneath. Don't want to get in foul trouble. So Malone
I'm looking for the sequence.
Just have to be careful and take his time.
I'm looking for the sequence where Rodman trips Malone. Where he trips Malone. I got to try to find that one.
Incredibly, are scheduled to wrestle in one of those bogus events next month. Why Malone wants to lower himself to that is anyone's guess. And Rodman apparently wants to start the wrestling now.
I tell you what, I love what I'm seeing, the battle between these two guys. They're fighting, giving it everything they got. Both of them are trying to push and shove and gain position. Karl Malone gives him a little knock, but at the end of the play, what I like the most is Malone.
I love it. Listen, I love it. Dennis Rodman, if he'd done that in today's game, would have been ejected 3 times and suspended for the next game. You know, right there, Karl Malone just took it. He just took it. It was all in fun, all in tough basketball. He just took it. And that's what I mean by Dennis Rodman will have a hard time today. All he did in that triangle offense with the Bulls was pass out of the high post. Of course, his energy on defense, his offensive boards, you can use that in any era of basketball. But the amount of open shots that he passed up on the perimeter just would not fly today. And you not be a superstar player. You could be a Dennis Rodman, but you coming off the bench, you wouldn't be able to start, because if you notice those scores, I know it's the playoffs. I know it's starting to grind down at the end of these. They're the best 2 teams. Everybody's beat up and tired. But those games were in the late 70s, late 70s and 90s as far as scores. They weren't even breaking 100 points in any of those games. Contrast to today, where even in the playoffs, if you're not scoring 110 points, you're going to lose on most nights. Even in the playoffs today, they're averaging 110, 115, 120 points a game. You have to be able to score. And the referees are not going to allow those bully tactics that Rodman got away with right there, and that were prevalent in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and particularly the 80s and 90s. You know, where you had some genuine bully ball going on. You know, Detroit Pistons bad boy, you know, Charles Barkley, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, and there were many more that played that bully style basketball. They weren't very skilled. And that just wouldn't fly in today's game. So that's another point I wanted to speak about. You know, just comparing little notes, comparing errors. And what else are they talking about here in today's landscape? Hey, is it just me, or is Tom Brady and LeBron James going to the same doctor down in Miami somewhere? What the hell is going on? I mean, really, I'm 46 and I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I ride bikes and stuff like that every day, but to play professional football at the level that Tom Brady is playing at right now, at 44 years old. And I remember, I love Max Kellerman. I like Max Kellerman more than I do Stephen A. Smith, right? I can relate to Max Kellerman. He's from my generation, hip hop guy, everything, right? A lot of people don't know Max Kellerman used to rap. That's another story. But Max used to speak on a cliff, an age cliff, and he swore Tom Brady was going to drop off that age cliff as soon as he hit 40, like most of us did. I agreed with Max Kellerman. I said, yup, it's no way he's going to be able to continue this level of play approaching that age. But this guy, not only did he continue the level of play, it looks like he's getting better. He looks really good. He looks better down in Tampa than he did the last two years in New England. He looks rejuvenated. I don't know if it's the weather down there or he, when you have money like him, you can live anywhere you want. So it's not just that Tampa weather, because he can live in that weather, if he wants to, despite he was playing in New England. I don't mean he had to live there, but holy smokes, unbelievable. He's definitely the leading MVP candidate, right? And he should definitely be the favorite to go back to the Super Bowl. He makes all the throws, man, all the check down throws, all the deep balls. He slides around that pocket like Dan Marino. He's even running for first downs. This is incredible, man. I'm starting to get suspicious, Tom. And partly is because I'm just anti-Boston, but, I'm not really anti-Boston, but a couple of the teams that, I just rooted against, and the Patriots and the Celtics are two of the teams I rooted against. Obviously, playing my New York, playing the Giants. I rooted against them for the Giants, when they won, even though I'm not a Giants fan, I'm a Niners fan, so on and so forth. But yeah, LeBron James and Tom Brady, and they're friends too, or friendly, I would say. They might just be going to the same doctor to get that, that other kind of shot. I'm just saying. I mean, maybe Tom Brady eats his Wheaties, him and LeBron James, and they take their vitamins and they say their prayers at night, and they're just ultra blessed. But I'm starting to get somewhat suspicious of you, Mr. Brady, and of you, Mr. James. What else is going on? Okay, that's what I wanted to speak on too. You guys mind we switch gears and talk a little baseball? Quiz for all you baseball guys out there. Who has ever hit the most home runs in professional baseball history? And notice the key word that I use: professional baseball history. I'll show you right now. This is the man right here at the top. Hopefully that comes in. Let me try to steady this shot here. See, that says 800 there. That is Josh Gibson, famous catcher for, I believe he played for the Kansas City Monarchs. That's one of the teams he played for. Josh Gibson hit over 800 home runs.
Advertising on YouTube helps me reach engaged customers like Jenna.
My brother is right. I really do need to
Who's been searching
buy that subscription. I'm getting annoyed.
Josh Gibson. His Hall of Fame numbers are staggering. Nearly 800 career home runs, blasting baseballs out of ballparks like they were rockets. A skilled defensive catcher, he was a master at handling pitchers, and his powerful arm cut down opponents on the base paths. Josh Gibson's performance on the baseball diamond made Pittsburgh the epicenter of the Negro Leagues. So many legendary tales. If he wasn't the best baseball player of all time, he was clearly the best player never to make the big league.
That's a shame. You can go and find and watch a Josh Gibson documentary yourself. That's one of the tragedies of American sports, is that Josh Gibson, never made it to the major leagues. And he doesn't need the major leagues to validate him either. Okay, because whenever you had stars from the Negro leagues go over to the major leagues, they were always stars over there. It's not like they went from being stars in the Negro leagues to being backups in the major leagues. So if he hit over 800 home runs in the Negro leagues, you guarantee that he would have hit over 800 in the major leagues. They say the man hit a ball 500 feet, over 500 feet before a home run. And these were before advanced, athletic training techniques and all that. You saw how stocky the dude was and how built he was naturally. And I doubt he had a membership to Planet Fitness or Gold's Gym. This is how dudes fresh off the cotton fields. That's what they call country strong. Never lifted a weight in his life. But if you put him in the gym, could probably go and bench 300 pounds, no problem. He was one of these guys. And I just think it's a shame that while we continue to applaud all the greats of the past in the major leagues, a guy like this that hits 800 home runs becomes a small footnote in sports history.
Back to the very beginning.
That's upsetting to me, because the record should show the truth that Babe Ruth was not the home run leader in professional baseball. It was actually Josh Gibson. Okay, and while we're at it, I want to speak about another guy that gets overlooked while we're speaking about Josh Gibson. And for that, we got to go to the sport of boxing. And it's a shame. Look, there's a music band called Jack Johnson, and they pop up. So I have to be careful. I actually have to put Jack Johnson boxer. Unbelievable. This is the man, Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson is the greatest heavyweight of all time, not Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was one of my heroes and my idols growing up. So don't think I'm speaking down on Muhammad Ali, but he was not Jack Johnson. I'll play you a little bit of this. Jack Johnson, I'll just give you little snippets of something I could tell you about him. This was a guy who was fighting 35, 40 rounds out in the sun, whooping guys for years of all, just beating dudes around the ring, playing with them. He wasn't a brute. He was a pure boxing technician with freakish knockout power. Now tell me the last time you've seen that in a boxer. Great skill, great technical skill matched with freakish knockout power in the same person. That's Jack Johnson. Incredible stamina and endurance. And imagine Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury for the World Heavyweight Championship with the Ku Klux Klan at ringside.
This is the audacious smile of one of the most controversial and inspiring men in sporting history. An iconic grin that enraged those who oppressed, and a symbol of hope to those who were not truly free. Born a second-class citizen in his own country, to then one day become the most recognizable African-American on the planet. Rainy Day Boxing brings you Jack Johnson, a boxing legend.
I don't know what he had. Who talked to him? I'm old. He was crazy.
Jack Johnson was a big inspiration because what he did out of the ring, he was so bold. Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekend. They would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man, and nigger, if you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black brothers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold." And he would knock the white man out.
You liken yourself to him anyway. They say I'm controversial. They say that I'm old, but I wasn't nothing like Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson, did you see the gold in his mouth? All right, he this was before any rapper. Right? This is before any rapper you ever saw with gold teeth in his mouth. Jack Johnson had gold fronts in his mouth in the 20s. I could tell you something about Jack Johnson. He loved racing cars. He loved dressing up. He was part of an underground called sports. The sporting life, the hustlers, the gamblers, the pimps, prostitutes, all the people of leisure at night, right? He ran with that crowd, but it was an artisan crowd. The man played the cello. The man was a playwright. He wrote poems. He acted in plays. All right, this was a phenomenal man. Phenomenal. Way ahead of his time. And okay. Peace, Al. I just saw that. Phenomenal. Enjoy your day, buddy. Phenomenal. Thank you for viewing. Jack Johnson was phenomenal. Phenomenally ahead of his time. Self-educated. When most quote unquote Negroes, because that's what they call people that look like me in those times, Negroes couldn't read. He was a poet. All right. When most Negroes barely had enough clothes to put in a suitcase, he was dressed to the nines. When most Negroes didn't even have access to their own horse, he was riding around through all parts of the country in brand new convertible cars with white girlfriends in the passenger seat. You know, this guy was ahead of his time in the ring and outside the ring. He was what you call, if there's a person who personifies the term Renaissance man, that was Jack Johnson. He was truly a Renaissance man. I watched a documentary that was almost 2 hours. It was a PBS documentary on him. And the amount of things that he went through, that he accomplished, that he did at a time in this country where 10% of what he did would have got you hung and killed by white mobs, Ku Klux Klans, and the like. Shout out Northwest River. Okay. Okay, I got you. You know, yeah, I'm trying to do this. I'm still a novice at this YouTube game, but I'm learning. There's only one me, you know, so I know there's a lot of other content out there that's more polished and everything like that. But I'm trying to bring something different to the table. And he's one of the people that is different, that they don't speak about in the history of boxing, in the history of sports. I don't know why. I don't know if they're afraid to bring up this guy. Jack Johnson was such a monster. I guess if they really put him in his right place, you know, he would just tower above everybody else. You know, he's like the way Babe Ruth is immortalized in baseball is what Jack Johnson should be in boxing and in all sports. And they were in the same era. You know, Jack Johnson had, I believe how many people it was, but I believe he had over 100,000 people in one fight. Jack Johnson. Imagine in the 20s and 30s, you have 60,000 screaming white people. I'm not going to say that they was all there to see him lose. Most of those were his fans. But you did have a small segment in those crowds hollering nigga, monkey, that you can get knocked out, nigga. If you beat that boy, we're gonna kill you, nigga. And imagine hearing this on the way to the ring, reading it in the paper before the fight, hearing it before you get into the ring, walking out, hearing it in the ring, and then when you knock the guy out or beat him, now you got to hear all the threats trying to get out of the ring and get to where you're going. You know, I almost damn near feel that he might have had Secret Service, you know, as part of his entourage. I don't know how he got away with it. You know, there was a thing about him. He loved race. He used to also race cars, and he liked driving all of his cars fast, and he didn't have no license. So he used to speed through these towns. The sheriff would stop him and write him a ticket, and he'd just take the ticket, throw it in the glove compartment, and race off to the next town. They wouldn't arrest him. You know, that wasn't an arrestable offense back in those days. But just think of it reminds me of the movie Django Unchained with Jamie Foxx. And there's a scene where Jamie Foxx and his partner pulls up to the plantation where it's called Candyland, I believe, that was owned by Leonardo DiCaprio. And Samuel Jackson is Leonardo DiCaprio's main houseboy. And he comes to the door and he sees Jamie Foxx riding in on a horse. They call him a nag. And he says, "Who is that nigga on that nag?" That was Jack Johnson. Instead, he wasn't pulling up on no horse. He'd been pulling up in an automobile. The finest automobile that they make. Suited down. And he would have had a white woman in the car with him. Could you imagine what Samuel Jackson's character would have said? He might have dropped dead right then and there. He might have said, "Lord, it's all gone topsy-turvy. That nigger's in the car." And drop dead. That Samuel Jackson character would have dropped dead if he saw real life Jack Johnson. And he wasn't no movie character. But a movie should be made about Jack Johnson. I'm going to say it now. And I'm commissioning Idris Elba or somebody like that to play the Jack Johnson story on a big screen like it deserves to be told. It's an American story, classic American story. Jack Johnson was from Texas as well, too. So those of you in Texas, that's y'all's son. You know, hopefully a movie can be made, a great movie that they put money into, they cast it correctly. Because to me, Jack Johnson's story on big screen is the greatest story never told, at least the greatest American story never told so far. So we up over an hour. I want to thank everyone that came in. I want to thank everyone that's going to watch this after the fact. I'm always going to say something controversial. If y'all don't know that by now, this is Rant Roller Sports. I have another channel called Rant Social. You can check that out where I speak on more social issues and more, it's more black oriented per se, more messages toward black people and so, but it's messages toward people in general. So go over there and check out Rant Social. It's very small, 7 subs. This channel isn't huge yet. Speaking of that, I forgot when I first got on, but I'm going to say it now. Please, everyone, subscribe, like, especially like, put likes. Helps with the algorithm of the channel, helps it get viewed more, seen more. Please like, share, subscribe to Rant Social. And yeah, I want to keep going. I like to be able to do lives from location. Right now, since I'm under 1,000 subs, I can only go live from my computer at home. So please help me grow the channel so I can go live from different locations, maybe even sporting events and things of that nature in the future. And to help keep me motivated to stay on top of my game and get this content out here, because it's not easy. Doing YouTube is a job itself. Try it one day if you haven't. It's not just easy to roll out of bed and become a YouTuber. It's not as easy as people think. All right. I have to address this. I put a bunch of black t-shirts back here to try to knock down some of that sun glare, because I noticed in a few of my lives I was doing in the daytime, the sun coming through my backyard. I have light curtains, and it's overwhelming, these curtains. So I apologize for me starting to look like a glow stick. I'm starting to look angelic at times, or a glow around me. I'm angelic, but that's the sun. But I want to thank you all for tuning in, rocking with me, commenting in the comment section. As always, I try to answer everybody for the most part. Even if I just put a heart there, know that I probably just saw it 2 o'clock in the morning and I fell back asleep and didn't write nothing back. I try to write to everybody. That's one of the differences between my platform and many others. I want to make this a personal platform with the viewers. So I want you guys to know that I watch your comments, I read them, and I try to respond to them, whether I agree or disagree, whether we end up in a debate, which has happened many times, and people, that we go back and forth and damn near insult each other in a debate, right? But then you come back and rock with me and watch more videos. That's really love. And I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. All right. Man, woman, and child. I appreciate you guys. So once again, please like, share, and subscribe. Please, if you subscribed already, go to the videos and put likes on the video. I forget to do it when I watch a lot of YouTube content as well, and I have to remind myself to like the video. Just that one little thing helps immensely. All right. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoy your Sunday out here. Today's Football Sunday, February 17th. I'll be back as soon as I'm inspired to come back, because, I don't do these lives routinely and systematically just because I don't want to force it. And I know this is now my job, but I still don't want to force content. Just get up here and, like some YouTubers, they're scheduled to go every day at a certain time. So no matter what, here come this time, now you got to turn on. Yeah, this is what I hate about this. And I don't want to be one of these guys. I don't want to be these guys fake ranting up here or drumming up anger about this or that. I want to speak about what I'm authentically passionate about. And I hope you appreciate that. And that's why I don't post content every day. I'm working on it. Sometimes I'm just not that enthused. If I'm about it, I don't do it. All right. So I got to get better at that. Work with me. I appreciate you guys. I love you. Enjoy your day. Live one moment at a time, as always. Until next time, family. See you soon. Peace. Thank you.